Hello, and welcome to the podcast where our goal is to remind you that amidst the chaos and craziness of the world, there is still plenty of good that's worth shouting about. In each episode, we're going to be joined by nonprofit professionals, leaders, experts, and advocates to hear their stories, facilitate connection within the nonprofit sector, and hopefully put a smile on your face, because that's always nice. This is Nonprofit Connect with Matt Barnes. Let's share some good. This has been a Rogue Creatives production. I'm here with Anthony Dix, and Anthony, thank you so much for joining me.
Man, Matt, it's a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course, man. And like I was mentioning before we started recording, your wife was here about a month ago, I guess, a month and a half ago, maybe. And she set the bar pretty high. So
yes,
good
she
luck.
does. But thank you, man. I'm going to need all the help I can get. Yeah, I've grown. We've been married for 21, going on 22 years.
Ooh,
and
nice.
I have grown used to my name. My real name is not Anthony. My real name is what I'm quite comfortable being introduced as, and that is Miriam's husband.
Yeah.
So just call me Miriam's husband. I still will answer.
Well, Miriam's husband, I'm so glad you're here. We always start off with a few random questions, and so we have a list of many random questions. It's growing all the time, and we have a randomizer that chooses 3. Are you ready for that?
Let's do it.
Okay. Question number 1. What is the best holiday you've ever had?
Oh, man, that's a good one. My wife has a tendency to surprise me. I can never surprise her.
Yeah.
She always surprises me. So I've been surprised on several occasions. Christmas, I've got a surprise twice.
Oh, nice.
Like one year, she got me a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
So I've been asking about it. And then last year, she bought me the John Maxwell team certification so I could be certified as a JMT. So that was good. But there was one year, and I know this might seem small to some people, but there was this bracelet I wanted that I didn't think I was going to get ever. And she surprised me with it. And it's not the bracelet that I have on now. It's another bracelet that I usually wear when I'm wearing something that's a little lighter colored. Man, that was the best Father's Day gift ever.
Nice.
Ever. Yes.
She knows you.
So, yeah, she knows me very well.
That's good.
She surprised me. I didn't think I was going to get anything. You know how Father's Day can be.
All right. What is the TV show that takes you to your happy place?
The TV show that takes me to my happy place. Lately, and I want to give a shout out to any TV show. I'm not an affiliate, but Reacher.
Oh, I haven't seen Reacher.
That TV show has been doing it for me lately.
Nice. Okay, I got to check that out.
So the lead in the series is not like Tom Cruise. It's a wonderful ride. He's a big dude. So
yeah,
him with his muscle mass compared to, the intellectual prowess and sophistication of Tom Cruise playing that in a movie for 2 movies, it doesn't take away from the series at all. Like it is, and I hadn't read the book that's associated with it.
Okay.
So man, Reacher does it. It's detective. It's like Batman without the mask and the riches.
All right.
So he's just as brutal, just as, but it's really good. So I like it.
Is that Alan Richardson? Is that his name?
Yes, that's Alan Richardson. Yes.
Yeah, I've seen him in a few other things. He's a big dude.
Right. Like he is humongous. There's one line, I think, where somebody walked past him and I couldn't tell if it was improv or somebody wrote that into the script, but they looked at him and asked him, "Why are you so big?"
All right. Last question. Another holiday one. If you could get rid of one festive holiday, which is your least favorite, what would it be?
My least favorite holiday is just Valentine's Day. No slight to Miriam.
No.
Because I love Miriam.
It's not about the
love.
We
have a wedding. Right. We have a wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
And so the wedding anniversary is no competition. Like Valentine's Day is no competition for a wedding anniversary. So I think once you get married, like Valentine's Day is like,
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And there's a weird pressure on Valentine's Day that just feels, I don't know.
It's awkward. Now, I hope I hadn't lost any of your listeners or viewers talking about how a brutal TV show like Jack Reacher takes me to a happy place, or how I don't like Valentine's Day. So I hope they stick around to listen to some other stuff that I have.
No, I think you're good. I think you're good. So my wife and I, not to get too far off topic, but we had 2 weddings. So we have 2 anniversaries, and
Okay.
and then there's the like, which one's our real one? Do we celebrate them? So,
That's amazing.
yeah, we got engaged, and 3 weeks later we did just took our wedding party to Vegas and did a kind of a did a
Okay.
secret getaway and
Yeah,
didn't
that's
tell
dope.
anybody. And then 3 months later we had a big wedding, and right before we walked down the aisle we played the video from the first wedding,
Okay.
and everybody's like, wait,
Okay.
what?
So y'all were married? It's like getting rebaptized.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly. We just got to make sure, you got to make
right.
sure.
Just in case it didn't take the first time.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Anthony, I'm glad you're here. I just looking over your resume, I can't believe how much of a slacker you are. You've done so little. I mean, just a speaker and leadership consultant with 180 Management Group. You've written a book. You're a senior pastor. I mean, executive leadership podcast you were on recently. Like, I mean, there's just your list just goes on and on. So my question is, why are you so lazy? I guess.
Because, man, laziness is where it's at. It's just so refreshing just to be a slacker, man.
Do you have
That's
ADD
my
like I
gift to
do?
the world. Um, I was asked a few weeks ago. I can't. It was probably in a conversation about some of my pursuits and stuff like that, and how it could seem like you're doing a lot when it's really, to me, it's not a lot. It's not that I have my hands in a lot of things. It's just that what my hand is in deeply. So I instead of expanding to other subjects, because I'm not an accountant and a dentist and a philanthropist
Yeah.
and a phlebotomist. No, I'm in the leadership, and I just get so deep into those things that my hand gets to spread in other areas. And so I just love leaders and I love leadership. So I just get engulfed in it.
I am right there with you. I'm curious because I did talk to Miriam, is because she seems a little bit more diverse in her background. She if I remember right, medical background or
Yep.
medical
Yep.
management or something like that, and now getting into leadership and pastoral and all these things. Is that a good balancing for you guys?
Yeah, it is a great balance because I wish Miriam was here. And I know we're talking a lot about Miriam, so you should go hear her podcast because I'm pretty sure it's amazing. But we are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
She is an operational genius.
Yeah.
Like, I have not seen a mind for operations like her. She just
Yeah.
gets it. She's like Miriam is to operations what Neo is to the Matrix.
Okay, got it.
She looks at operations of a business and she just sees the code.
Yeah.
I may have something similar to that when it comes to leadership. And
Yeah.
often the way we work in tandem with each other is oftentimes leaders don't understand how to operationalize vision or the operational implications of their vision.
Yes.
So as we've led together in our organization, she's helped me to understand the operational implications of a vision that I might cast.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
on the other side, she's learned the language of vision and how to take it and operationalize it, which oftentimes gets lost in translation. So
Hmm.
we are a match. That's what we call it matchmaking,
Yeah.
matching your vision with your operations and vice versa. And so the two of us work in tandem in that way. And it's been an extremely wonderful ride and journey to learn how I sound to people who may follow me. Like, you casted this vision, but what are they going to do with that? What does it look
Right.
like from A to B to C to D? And
The
to see that
practical.
process work out right, to make it practical,
Yeah.
and then reverse engineer how you cast vision, taking those things into account of
Yes.
how you're being heard, just makes you a better leader.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the things my background's also organizational leadership, and one of the things I talk about a lot is you got to find that balance. You can't be one or the other. You've got to find them, and
Right.
whether it's a spouse, which my wife provides that kind of balance as well, though she's busy with our 5 children. So we've got she's got her hands full. But she did used to work. We did used to work together, and but after she stopped working here, making sure that I had good people around me that would bring that balance, because without it, I could be all philosophy and all like, training up the best people and great, but we're not getting anything done, and we're losing
Exactly.
money, and we're, we're
Yep.
a mess. So no, you got to have that balance. You talk about engineering your leadership. Is something that I've seen in the things I've been reading about you. What does that look like? Like when you guys do a lot of consulting. I mean that's mostly your organization does, right?
That's right.
So what does that look like when you come into an organization, especially let's talk specifically nonprofits because that's what the podcast is about. What are you looking for and how do you approach that?
Leaders, in my opinion, don't grow by accident. They must be engineered. And what I mean by that, engineering is about the intentional building of certain mechanisms, systems, the way things works and flows, and seeing how those things interact with each other to lead to an optimized outcome, an optimized result. And those things take intentionality. And in my experience, too often people who have assumed leadership responsibility in a nonprofit organization assume that responsibility, and that with that responsibility comes the expectation that they are intentional about how they reach outcomes, but it does not come with a commensurate or requisite expectation that they exercise that same intentionality about how they develop as leaders.
Yes.
So leaders are intentional about developing their organizations, but not as intentional about developing their leadership. And I
Yeah.
think that is to an organization's demise. And so we take those opportunities as a management consulting firm to assess an organization's culture, to really investigate ways in which we can engineer better outcomes, to
Yeah.
engineer transformation. That it doesn't happen by happenstance or serendipitously. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens through the intentional moving forward with intentional systems, being systematic so that the cultural shift and change is systemic. So that's really what I mean by engineering your leadership. To think about your organization like a mechanical engineer thought about your car, like a civil engineer thought about how the water flows in your neighborhood to keep it from flooding. That kind of intentionality is also needed when it comes to professional and personal development.
Absolutely. The biggest challenge I see in that area, and I'd love to hear your perspective, is that if someone's coming to you for this, they're already open to it,
Right.
and that's the key, right? It's the same thing with whether you want to get better as a person, you go to therapy, you go to you whatever it is that you need to do to grow, invest in yourself, that kind of thing. Like
Yes. Yes.
oftentimes I say all the time, the people who need therapy the most will never go because they're never going to admit they need therapy. They
Right.
don't want to change. They don't want to grow.
Exactly.
So how do we, like, for those organizations, those people, how do you've kind of got a little bit of a leg up when you go in that they've already called you, right? That's they're asking for your opinion. I know that doesn't make it easy all the time. Sometimes they still don't want to hear what you have to say. Deep down, it's there's the pain. There's the pain. I don't want to change.
Right.
Change is the hardest.
Right.
But do you find yourself ever working with people who are very resistant to that change, and how do you approach that?
Yeah, there have been times where we have had engagements that involved people who were more resistant to change than others. In many instances, from what I understand, change registers in the brain as pain. So people's resistance to change is normative. The degree of that resistance can, be different from person to person.
Yeah.
So when we are working with clients who call us in to serve, we know that there's going to be a certain amount of pain that registers in their brain, and that the person who initiated this engagement is either a little more pain tolerant or a little more in pain and wants it to change relatively quickly. But that's not the case for everybody.
Right.
And so those things, when you're working with people who have differing levels of resistance to change, you got to be patient. You got to be patient, and you got to prioritize. You got to prioritize. What can we change? You got to know, okay, what can we change? What are we going to have to table until another day? Because change, in order for it to be effective, it's got to be long lasting, and people have to be bought into it. We do not consider ourselves to be miracle workers, even though in some instances, in some engagements, miracles do happen, but
Sure.
we don't take credit for that. So when it comes to those types of opportunities, empathy is a big deal. right? If you had to go through these types of processes to change your organization, and it's your baby, like you might feel the same way. And so keeping those things in mind, being empathetic, being patient, but also being clear as to what you can and cannot change helps to navigate those spaces and in times uh, well. That, in my opinion, that's what I've seen work.
Yeah. Are most of your clients, are they more startups or organizations that have been around for a while?
They're organizations that have been around for a while.
Yeah, yeah, and
For a while,
that's
yep.
why I assumed. Yeah, when I was doing my organizational leadership degree, the first class I took was called Leader is an Agent of Change, which apparently is supposed to be the last class you take, but somehow
Really,
I ended up in there first. And that was, they told us, they're like, you're gonna graduate with this. If this is the area you go into, most of the people that are gonna hire you, they're hiring you to manage change. They're realizing something's got to change, and they don't know how to do it, or they don't want to be the ones to pull the trigger because they're going to get blamed, so they bring in a consultant so they can point the finger. And but we spent a lot of time sort of looking through case studies and different things, and to kind of develop our own approach to managing change.
yep.
And I loved what our professor did, because the first night of class he had us write 2 pages or so on what our thoughts were, and then
Wow.
revise that as we went through the semester. And so then and then really like a final revision for our final paper, which ended up being about 20 pages. But
Right.
all your thoughts, and how much it evolved, and really where I landed, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, was your best bet is with when you're starting an organization, to build change into the DNA of it. And what so many people do is they make their core about the what or the where or the how, and not the why. And if you can make about the why, then when all those other details change, you're okay, because your core stays the same, and you're always changing a little bit, because and adapting. But it's when it's like, this is what we do and how we do it, and then 20 years goes by and you're like, oh, we are out of, then moving that is very
Right.
painful, right?
Right.
Like moving, like
Right.
pulling up that flag and going, oh, we got to move that. That's a painful thing. Instead of, if it's your why, then every day you're going like, oh, where are we going today? Where are we going today? I'm driven by the purpose of it. Because I've spent a lot more time on the startup side of things, with working with startups, nonprofits, smaller nonprofits. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely done some managing change in larger ones, and it's a pain. How do you approach that with an organization that is so, this is the way it's been done, this is the way we've always done it, and they know they need to change, but they're resistant to that change? How, where do you start?
One, you start by assessing the culture as it stands at the time, right? Because a change strategy is always going to lose to the existing culture of an organization. So if you don't assess the culture of an organization, it's going to be difficult to move the needle with regards to transforming that organization or changing any aspect of that organization.
Right.
And so you start there, and you want to do that in a way that is objective, that's
Yes.
not subjective, right? Because, and this is one of the challenges, even in doing it objectively, is people will develop a subjective theory, a subjective approach or perspective, even on objective metrics. So if you give them the statistics, if you give them the metrics that lead you to identify areas where change needs to happen, that either confirm or challenge some of their existing ideas about what needs to change and where, people can still have a subjective approach to it. But it still gives you a place from which you have common ground to say, we've taken an assessment of your organization as a whole, given different people's responsibilities to analyze these particular areas, and this is what the data says. Then after that, all you can do is suggest,
Right.
right? Because to me, often what we take for granted about organizations is we think that organizations are machines when they're not. Organizations are collections of human beings, and human
Yes.
beings have behaviors. So when you're talking about change, you're really talking about changing minds and changing behaviors. And if you're talking about adults, that's not going to happen quickly or easily. So if you have an evolutionary approach to change, as you've alluded to, getting change into the organization when it's started up is really helping the organization embrace that organizations like humans evolve over time. And that's something that we do quite naturally.
Yeah.
It's just that when organizations get bigger because of success, they want to keep things as they are, which builds in cultural inertia. That's when you almost got to break something to make something. Like in
Exactly.
order for us to make change, it feels
Yes.
like we got to break all of this other stuff. But if you take the approach and remind people that this is an opportunity for your organization to evolve, and evolution is natural and it is necessary to sustain the flourishing and thriving of an organization. So those attitudes lead to certain actions and tactics that can be contagious, especially when you're coming in as a consultant. You know that you are the fall guy.
Yeah.
You know that sometimes people bring you in because they're looking for you to say things that they've been saying that they just know that their voice is not being heard.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one
Yeah.
approach. Or they're just looking for someone else who has a new nose, who may smell trash that everybody else has gotten used to, and hopefully has the kind of credibility to move the organization forward so that they can at least get credit for, I brought in this consultant and helped to change our organization.
Sure.
But in either case, that attitude of let's see how we can help this organization evolve in a transformative way gives you the language, the mindset, and the disposition to help move the organization forward, because there is going to be some requisite resistance to change. You
Sure.
can't shake that. You just
Well,
can't.
it sounds like the balance of you and Miriam is perfect for this, because what you're saying is, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but she can kind of go in and see the objective
Yep.
structural issues and the code, right? You
Yep.
can assess sort of the culture so that you can take that and meet them where they're at and
Yep.
figure out, how do we walk them down this path without saying, hey, we're over here, come to us.
Exactly.
We're going to come to you. We're going to help walk you to where you need to go using the facts that we have, the objective fact. That outside perspective too is, I mean, I tell our clients all the time, in many ways, we're very often leading people through change specifically from a storytelling branding front. Not so much from the organizational structural side of things, though we do sometimes get sucked into some of that as well. But it's I tell them all the time, I'm like, the best we can do a lot of things, but honestly, the best thing we have is an outside perspective. That's the best thing we have to offer you, because anytime you're in the middle, my background's leadership. I do all this. I study all this stuff. I know everything you're talking about. I'm just like, yes. But how often do I find myself ignoring the same advice that I'm giving to somebody else because I'm in the middle of it and I'm not seeing?
Exactly.
And so, even for me to have, it's actually in some ways been better since my wife's been a little bit more removed, because she can see what's going on and go like, wait a minute, what's going on over there? Like, just checking in every once in a while and, hey, what's going on at work? And I'm telling her, and she's like, well, it seems like you're missing this thing. Oh man, I am. You're right. Like,
Yep.
to have that sort of removed perspective. But it sounds like, you guys have a good, well-rounded approach to be able to come in and guide people through that process, because it is very painful.
She can see, as you said, the structure and how the structure influences culture, and I can see how culture influences structure, and so the interplay between both of our perspectives is extremely helpful for the organizations that we have had the opportunity to serve as consultants, and internally to some of the organizations that we have built. And that outside perspective is so necessary. I think it was Donald Miller in one of his workshops that I attended that were talking about sometimes people who are involved in marketing and messaging, and I think even in operations, they don't know that their marketing messages aren't getting their point across because they're trying to read the label of the soda bottle from inside the bottle.
Yes. Yeah.
They're trying to read things from the inside. And so having that close perspective is almost like a surgeon trying to operate on somebody that's their sibling or their son or their daughter. It's like, I'm too close to this to be able to operate efficiently. And sometimes that distance helps to create enough space to get a different perspective. Say, oh, so that's what that really looks like. That's what that really sounds like. And so that outside perspective is key. It is key.
Absolutely. I'm not a big sports guy, but I remember one year I was watching the Super Bowl with, my family and whatnot. And, the coaches always have their headphones on with their little microphone. I'm like, who are they
Yep.
talking to? And I don't know if this is true. This is what somebody told me. They're like, well,
That's
they've got,
hilarious.
yeah,
You didn't know that they had people in the skybox looking at this?
that's what I'm saying. So they're like, yeah, there's people up top that have the big picture view. They can see where all the players are because the coach is down there. They can't see everything. They don't have the perspective. You need
Exactly.
that outside perspective. And I thought, oh, good leadership, metaphor or whatever. And didn't quite, because sports is whatever. I don't know what's going on the field. When's
That's
the next
amazing.
when's the next commercial? But
So you literally watching the Super Bowl for the commercials.
yes,
That's
I'm
good.
that guy. I'm that guy.
Ah, that's good.
So but it stuck with me as like a man that you got to have that voice in your ear that's got a different perspective, because all of us, any of us, the best of us can get trapped in our own mind traps, of the way that we think, the way that we've been trained, or just our situation, and miss how, I can't tell you how many times we get new clients and they go, yeah, this thing is the most important thing that people want to hear about us. And we're going, nobody cares about that. Like
Right.
from an outside perspective, nobody cares. This other thing over here that you're not even talking about, that's really interesting. And usually that's when they go, oh, that's just something, that's just who we
Right.
are. And I'm like, exactly. Exactly. That's what makes you different, who you are, and bringing that into the story and bringing that character forward. But I think even, with the structural things and bringing that into a story narrative of,
Right.
the development of an organization, and presenting that as a positive of evolution, and this could be a moment. I did this with one nonprofit I was consulting with a few years ago, and they had been around for a while, and big changes they needed to make. And, I got them all together and had them sort of group tell the story of the
Right.
organization and how they had gotten to there, and what were the big turning points where things changed. And I said, we're at another one now. This is
Yeah.
one you're going to be in a couple of years. You tell the story, you're going to look back and go, this is, and it got them excited about the idea of, okay, we're going to make some changes. It still was tough in some areas, but of like, at least it helped change that mindset of, we're growing, this is positive. This is not
Right.
negative.
Right. One of the powerful things about what you just suggested is about the power of story. So even when it comes to consulting from an operations or leadership perspective, understanding that every structure or process in an organization, there's a story connected to that. That
Oh,
there's a
absolutely.
reason why we call this what we call this. There's a reason why we put this before we put that, before we do this, before we do the other. And so when you're assessing a culture, when you're assessing the necessity for change, it's an opportunity for you to learn those stories, because stories create meaning and understanding. The second thing that's powerful about stories, that not only do those structures have stories, those stories give you insight as to the sacred cows you may be touching.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Oh, for
Because my
sure.
granddaddy put that bench in his room. That's the reason why it's got to be here for such and such. And he founded the
Absolutely.
company. So that's sacred. So those stories help you understand what processes, people, or principles are sacred. But then, as you also alluded to, consulting gives you an opportunity to make stories as well. And it's hard convincing sometimes organizations that the next chapter of their story could be much better than the last chapters of their story. And that's where you get that resistance to change, where people think the way we were is better than the way you're suggesting we can be.
Yes. Well, people romanticize the past.
Exactly.
I don't know if you've
Because they're just more comfortable with it.
I don't know if you follow the news at all. But the good old days, and then you start getting, were they really that good? I mean, it's there's a lot of romanticizing of things that because people are comfortable with it. So I'm getting probably off topic, but I saw a post on Facebook recently, and it was like, when I was a kid, we knew to come home when the street lights turned on, and we rode in the back of the pickup truck, and we did this, and those were the good old days. And why aren't? And I'm like, well, probably because we learned that, it's not always safe for kids to just be out on their own until the streetlights come on. Probably because kids were getting tossed out of the back of pickups trucks. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like we learned
Have
and
you
we
ever heard it? So
grew.
you liked it when we didn't have seatbelts.
Yeah, sure. It was fun for you and you survived. Yay. But also we like that doesn't mean it was better. And but people get so comfortable with what they grew up with, what they know, what they're surrounded by, that I think we can all easily romanticize a chapter. I had a boss one time who said, "You guys, these are the good old days. And I thought,
Yep.
oh, don't say that." Because
Right.
you're saying anything that comes after this is going to suck. Like it's not
So,
going to live
yep.
up to it. And you know what?
Yep.
It was like this premonition. Everything fell apart within a couple of years after that, because it was like somebody left and then this, and it was like, oh, the good old days are gone now. It's not the way it was. And that boss of like constantly was looking back to, yeah, those, oh man, remember that, remember. And I'm like, but the good old days could still be coming if we
Right.
work for it, if we
Right.
accept that that's possible. It doesn't
Right.
have to be an either or. That was a good time, but
Right.
also
And
it can be better.
because in a story, the climax isn't the end.
Yes.
The climax of the story sets up the resolution and peace side of the story. The climax of the story helps to set up the happily ever after.
Yeah.
And leaders, particularly, bear a lot of responsibility in regards to creating inspiration, motivation, and hope in an organization so that they understand that the glory days are not what back there.
Yeah.
That we are still yet evolving into more glorious days.
Yes.
We leaders can't do that being Pollyanna. You can't do that just, selling false dreams or pipe dreams. You still have to be realistic because economic disruption comes.
Yes.
Pandemics, they come, but you
Yep.
can still create hope even in those contexts to help people, to galvanize them, create the synergy to lead to transformational change and to continue to move the needle forward so you can get the mission done. Because if the mission isn't complete yet, as you said, if the why is still our raison d'etre, then we still got meaningful work to do. We're not finished yet.
That's
and
right.
Hope helps people finish.
Yeah.
When people are hopeless, they just already feel like they're done or they don't want to keep going on. But hope helps people finish.
I love this. I literally could talk to you about this all day and probably tomorrow as well. So I might have to have you back sometime, but
Cool, man.
yeah,
we can talk football.
Yeah, exactly. You can teach me. You can teach me about what they're talking about in those headphones, and I don't. I'd seen it for so long, and I'm like, what? Who are they talking to? The players don't have mics in their ears. What's going on? Maybe they do. Do they?
They have sound in their helmets. Yes,
they do.
That's how they call the play-ins. Yep.
Man, see, I don't know anything.
Man, this is amazing. We can talk more offline about this stuff. Now, I'm not an expert, but
well, you don't have to be. You could be a novice and still know more than I do about that. So I'm calling you every time I watch a game. What's happening? Well, thank you so much. We do have a few closing questions that I would love to ask.
Are these more random questions?
They're a little more on topic. A little more on topic.
Okay.
Who is there? Somebody that you would love to meet, or that you look up to, or inspires you in the world of nonprofits? Who would that be?
Man, nonprofits is so expansive.
I know it really is.
Naturally, my mind goes to leaders and government.
Well, go there anyway. Who there?
Abraham Lincoln. I would love to just talk to Abe Lincoln because he navigated not only a pivotal time in history, but I just admire, how did you get all of that done and continue to maintain the kind of integrity that he had to move what he needed to move forward to preserve the Union? That time in history, pivotal, but his leadership, which I'm enamored by that guy. I would love to sit down and talk to Abraham Lincoln.
All right, who's the alive one?
I'd like to talk to Barack Hussein Obama.
Of course. I would too. Who wouldn't? Well, I know a lot of people who wouldn't.
You know what, though? I would rather talk to Michelle.
That you get the real perspective.
she was a lawyer. Just to juxtapose her career prowess with Hillary Clinton's career prowess, and how they took different approaches to being the first lady. that right there, I would just have a ton of questions. I just want to know more.
For sure. Absolutely. What aspect of your job brings you the most joy?
Coaching and inspiring leaders. That brings me the most joy. Leaders, especially in the nonprofit space, don't get enough good press, number one. They don't get enough encouragement, number two. And they inspire so many that they run out of breath inspiring others. To inspire is to breathe into. And so breathing into nonprofit leaders, because I truly believe in the work that nonprofit leaders do. They don't, again, get enough credit for what it is that they do and the kind of heart and sacrifice that they make in order to attempt to make this world and people's lives better. They are the unsung heroes of this country. And that's what makes me come alive the most. To really see them inhale and exhale again because they felt inspired, encouraged, or empowered by something that I've had the opportunity to share, whether in consultation, coaching, or speaking.
I love it. I'm glad you said that. That's so much of why we're doing this podcast, why we do our meetups. We love the nonprofits we work with. We love, and they often feel very isolated and alone in what they're doing because they don't get that recognition and or that appreciation. And they're people who have dedicated their lives to something that they're probably not getting paid too much to do and getting the recognition as much for. And when they come together and realize, oh, there's a lot of us and we're all in the same boat and we can learn from each other and support each other. Exactly. It's been really beautiful. It's been really beautiful. So, and to hear from people like you to give that perspective too, that it's just, I think, that encouragement is so needed, so important. So
it's
great.
Real, man. It's therapeutic just to be a part of those types of opportunities.
Yeah.
Because they give so much and receive so little. The more and more we could give to them would be amazing.
That's awesome. All right, Anthony, where can people find you?
They can find me online at linkedin.com/AA Dix Jr. Okay. You can find me on Instagram. You definitely can visit 180 Management Group's website. That's 180managementgroup.com. This podcast will be posted there once it's published and all the rest of that stuff. So, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome.
Not too hard to find.
Perfect. Awesome. Anthony, thank you so much for this. I love that I got to get the full picture of what you guys do with your wife, and this is so perfect. It's so great. It's so great. So I definitely, listeners, go check out 180managementgroup.com and Anthony and Miriam and all the amazing work that they're doing to support, organizations like you. So thank you, Anthony. And we'll hopefully talk again soon. You can teach me more about football.
Outstanding. If you tell me where you got those glasses, I'll teach you anything about football for free.
All right. Stay on afterwards and I'll tell you. All right. See ya. Well, there you have it. This episode of Nonprofit Connect with Matt Barnes, brought to you by Rogue Creatives, is over. It's done. Finished. What are you going to do with the rest of your day? You going to take the dog for a walk, maybe have some dinner? Before you do any of those things, could you do us a massive favor and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Music or Spotify or wherever else you listen to us? Obviously, you don't have to, but, it'd be very, very appreciated. Oh, and if you want to hear more from us, visit our website at npconnect.roguecreatives.com. That's npconnect, like Nonprofit Connect, .roguecreatives.com. We'll see you soon. Nonprofit Connect with Matt Barnes is hosted and executive produced by me, Matt Barnes, with an assist by my chaos coordinator, Tiffany Pope. Production is by our amazing friends over at Fame, the B2B podcast agency, along with Belinda Carter-Thompson and the team here at Rogue Creatives. Production lead is Luke Audi at Fame. Writing is by Sam Hollis at Fame and Matt Barnes and Taylor Bolanos from Rogue Creatives. Nemanja Koljaja of Fame is our audio editor, and Arslan Yakub from Fame is our video editor. Creative direction is by Corey Hill of Rogue. Our artwork is designed by Hopo Kelly and Joshua Marino at Rogue, and Ian Salas of Fame. Theme music is composed and performed by Jared Atherton of Chapters. Luke Audi of Fame does our booking and our guest relations. Huge thanks to our amazing guest for joining us for this episode, and to all of you incredible listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, and I don't know why you wouldn't have, don't forget to help us spread some good by giving us a good review. Preferably, 5 stars with lots of words saying how amazing we are on whatever platform you're listening on. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is. Also, tell your friends and subscribe so we can come straight into your potholes each and every time we have a new episode. For more information about Nonprofit Connect or to join us at a live event here in Orange County, California, visit our website, npconnect.roguecreatives.com. We'll catch you next time. This has been a Rogue Creatives production.